Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. I've beaten the crap out of this Nucanoe Unlimited over the past 2 years. So I get a lot of questions. How is the Nucanoe Unlimited? How well does it paddle? How well does it handle? Does it motor well? Is it worth the money? I hear a lot of comments that it's a thin kayak. Listen, I have gone over numerous oyster beds. I have jumped over stumps, not on purpose, but I've ridden over stumps, hit my motor, everything else. I have crashed into rocks. I beaches at a lot of concrete, boat ramps. I just don't take care of it very well. But that's why I prefer kayaking, because I don't have to worry about this as well or as much as I would if it was a boat. These are designed to take the abuse. Now, is it thin? I don't think so compared to other kayaks on the market. Yes, there is other kayaks out there that are thicker made than this, but they're also differently designed. They're designed more for rivers. But this thing has been great for 2 years. I want to go through it. I gave it a good cleaning because I have not cleaned it in a long time. We're gonna walk underneath this kayak. We're gonna see what is happened underneath this kayak. We're gonna put on the accessories back on it and get this thing loaded back up and walk through it. I got numerous videos on this particular kayak, and I own 2 Nucanoe Unlimited. That should tell you something right there. So let's get this thing jacked up and get into it. So hopefully the camera picks this up, but we're gonna get as close as possible. But you can see from me beaching on a lot of concrete boat ramps, this right here, the keel of the kayak is beat up pretty bad. It's starting to flatten out quite a bit right there. When I go up to the boat ramps, a lot of times I want to get out of people's way, so I'm not jumping with it. And you should really beach your kayak sideways when you go up to a boat ramp to prevent this, and it's easier to get off. But a lot of times I just run up, and this has taken a lot of oyster beds and everything else. Yes, I do have quite a few gouges in it. This one here is pretty deep. I got a lot of scratches right here, and I have driven this down. I've driven it. I have dragged it down numerous rivers and over rocks. I got a video out there going down the Flint when it was really low, so there was a lot of rocks to go over. I just got the normal wear down here. I have a few deeper gashes, and I've never gotten water inside this kayak except from over the top, where it just kind of gets through the little bit of the the wiring access ports where I have holes. But overall, guys, this is the first time I've picked this kayak up over my head and really looked at it, or even flipped it over. You can see back here I got a lot of drag marks. Hopefully it picks it up on the camera. I'll try to get different angles here. It's been dragged a lot. It's still holding out. I mean, this is very, very rough back here. Overall, it looks pretty good after 2 years, guys. And I will say this kayak is a good all-around multi-purpose kayak. It's good to go down rivers, obviously larger rivers, and even small creeks. It'll handle it. You have to get out in portage, but it will handle it. It's good on big water. This thing is super stable, and I feel very comfortable in this, even coming from the Hobie PA14 that I ran for about 7 years. So I'm looking here. I think this thing overall looks pretty good. You just have your normal wear and tear from me dragging it, not taking very good care of it. I mean, I'm not abusive to it, but at the same time, I'm going to do what I have to get where I have to get. We're going to lower this down. We're going to put some put everything back on it and go over it, and we'll talk a little bit more about it. I mean, right here, this is taking a lot of abuse right here in the front, and it's holding out very well. I got a pretty good gouge right there. There, it looks like I need to take a knife to it. I don't think it's going to wear through anytime soon, but I got to start being probably a little bit more gentle on the concrete ramps. This point here where it's formed, this is going to be thicker. I mean, this is pretty solid right through here, but overall, you got thinner sides. Can I push in on it? Yeah. But you can do that with like a lot of other kayaks. I mean, it's going to have some buoyancy, so you don't want this thing to be a rock, and you don't want this thing to weigh a ton either. One of my favorite things about the Nucanoe Unlimited is that everything is mounted on tracks. You can see I have my seat off, so I can give this thing a really good cleaning. The only thing I left on is the gear pod, because I have the wires running in and out, and I do have the retracts system for my transducer. One negative thing about the retracts that I've heard people have problems with is if you have the larger transducers, it doesn't completely sit flat. And I have the smaller one because I have a smaller fish finder. And I'm going to get underneath there at an angle, but you can see mine is not sticking down at all. And when I let the retracts go down, you can see my transducer is now sticking down, and I get my side imaging. Now you can see mine sitting pretty level. I've had it set up pretty good from the beginning, but I know a lot of people, the transducer, if they're bigger, kind of like leans in the back because it's so heavy, and when you pull it up, it's still kind of leaning back and not completely sitting flush up inside. Not really a horrible, ordeal for that, but to some people, when they drag it out of their truck, they may be catching it on their way out, so you just gotta pay attention to that. But overall, I still like the retract system for the transducer instead of, I used to have it on the sidearm, the sidekick, or whatever you want to call it, from Yak Attack and all that stuff. So I like having it underneath just because when I'm motoring really fast, I get all my imaging, and when I had it on the side of the kayak, the transducer would want to kind of kick up just from the force of the water hitting it. So I went over to the retract system, which I do have an install video on this. Pretty much have an install video on everything I put on this kayak. But like I said, a good thing, everything is mounted on track. So if you do have any issues, you can take everything off the track and mount it to another hull. So you can just buy just a hull if that's all you need. If you put a big hole in this or something happens, or even a warranty issue, you can just take everything and remove it off the track and put it on your other kayak very fast and easy. And what I do is, because I have two of these, if I need to take something off this kayak and put it on my other kayak, it's very simple by just taking thumb screws and just moving it to the other kayak, and away I go. This is the Tundra color, and this is a 2023, guys. Before I get everything else mounted to the kayak, I do want to show you that the deck padding that comes with the kayak itself has held up very, very well. I mean, I'm in a lot of salt water, I'm in a lot of fresh water, and a lot of brackish water, and everything has stayed on the kayak without peeling off after 2 years. And I stand up a lot on this, and I just walk around on this, so it gets used. I didn't do the full deck padding because I figured between the gear pod and everything I have mounted that I normally have mounted in the back, I don't need it. So I didn't buy the extra deck padding for this kayak. You can do that if you want. It gives you a cool look, especially if you're doing this down a lot of rivers and you go light. It kind of completes the look, but having just the deck padding where the seat is fine. It keeps everything quiet. And I do want to show you the inside of the gear pod before I load everything back up. You can see how much room is inside here. Obviously, this is where all my wires are for my fish finder and my transducer, but I keep a lot in here, and after I load this back up, you'll see what I keep in here. It doesn't really look that big as an opening, but this thing holds a lot of stuff, and it's a great accessory. Even if you just run down a lot of rivers and this is the only accessory you run on your kayak, this is definitely worth investing in and getting on your kayak. And what's great about this, once again, it mounts on the tracks. You just have 2 thumb screws to remove it, and they do give you a tie down cleat in the front, which you can mount right here. They give you like where you can screw into the kayak and do like a little drawstring just to help prevent the front from lifting up. You can see it kind of lifts up a little bit, but it's very minute. I never put it on, and I trailer this. I threw it in the back of my truck, and I never had a problem with this thing just having the thumb screws on, because I don't want to have an extra tie down in the front, because you just don't need it. Even going down a lot of like rapids and hitting a lot of water and slapping this kayak onto the the water itself from hitting over waves or whatever, or wakes, this thing has been perfectly fine, especially once I have a little bit of weight in it. And it gives you a good place to mount your navigational lights. I used to have them right here. This is where these Westbrook stickers are, but I used to have like this, the little Yak Power red and greens, but I ended up going with the strips just because I want to be a little bit brighter and be seen a little bit better by boaters, because I do go out early in the morning. So all I did is I just caulked the holes that I had here, and I just put some stickers over it just to hide the holes, but it's also sealed up as well. And I just moved the navigational lights to the gear pod. So you can mount with the track up here. You don't have to have a crossbar. You can mount your fish finder right on the front of your gear pod as well, and just take 2 thumb screws, have your batteries and anything else that's expensive inside your gear pod. Take these thumb screws off if you have like an open trailer in the back of your truck, and just take it into the hotel with you or whatever. So this is definitely one accessory I would utilize all the time, because you can take it on and off very easily with thumb screws. If you want to go wide open deck, like I have my other kayak set up, I don't run a gear pod on that, so my son can sit on the front. So you can run the wide open deck, or put this on and off real easy with the thumb screws, and then gives you your ability to store additional gear. The way I have this set up, this kayak stays the way it is all the time, and I usually don't remove anything except when I'm giving it a good cleaning. So how well does this paddle? Well, the Nucanoe Unlimited is 41 inches wide by 12'6" long. It paddles what you expect from a kayak that big. Is it doable? Yes. Would I do 10 miles in it every day? No. Would I take a short trip out and maybe paddle 5 miles? Absolutely. Does it paddle well? Absolutely. Does it paddle fast? Absolutely not. It's a barge. It's stable as hell, and you're gonna have stability, or do you want speed, you know? So that's what it comes down to. But if you wanted to keep this kayak simple with not all the stuff that I have on it, it will paddle well. It'll keep you in shape for sure, and it's a good way to get out there and get some exercise. But this going out in some smaller bodies of water when you're not fighting wind and everything, I would paddle this. I have paddled it. I go to a lot of small bodies of water by my house, and sometimes I don't want to go out with all this stuff, and I will just paddle it. It makes it for an enjoyable day, but I pick the days where I'm not fighting the wind all the time and everything else. So it does paddle well for the size that it is. Is it going to be a speed racer? Absolutely not. Paddling though does work. So if you guys are wondering how it paddles, it does paddle fine for the size that it is. And you can stand up and, you know, stand on the seat and push pull with your paddle when you're in the shallows. I will say if you want to use this as a strictly paddling kayak, I would say yes, but you're not going to go very far all the time. You can, but it's going to be a very exhausting day. But it does track very well. It does track better than the U10, the baby brother of this. But the U10 paddles very well too, but this paddles better, tracks better, because every time you take a stroke, you're not spinning the whole kayak like you would with the U10 as easily. So all right, like I was saying before with the gear pod, this is where I have my navigational lights. I'm going to show you what's inside here. I see I have the Yak Power strip lights. I'm hoping another brand comes out soon that I like to use all the time with some smaller navigational lights, but for now we're using the Yak Power. But you can see inside the gear pod itself, I keep another spare battery because I run 2 batteries for my Torpedo. I keep a first aid kit. I have the 2 Nucanoe 10 amp hour batteries. I think eventually I'm gonna just do a 20 with a Y splitter, but these 2 batteries run the navigational lights and also my fish finder, which is probably off right now because I probably pulled on the wire. Yeah, I did. Let's get that bad boy back on. Yeah, I pulled on the wire a little bit. Yes, that powers that. I keep in this Milwaukee bag here, I keep my prop wrench, a spare prop, spare parts for my Torpedo to change it and doing repairs, like a multi-tool and stuff I keep in here. I keep rope, tie wraps, pull straps, dude wipes, bug spray, and sunblock. And I can still jam more in here than I have in the past. So it does carry a lot inside this gear pod. You can jam it all back, so it goes all the way back in here. But yeah, I like having my lights on here. I didn't do any switches or anything for the lights because to me, it's just simple for me to stand up, lean up here, get to my connection, and just disconnect the battery. It takes literally 2 seconds. And you know, switches themselves, you can get all fancy with the Bluetooth Yak Power switches and all that. This will last you longer and have less issues without having to switch in the mix of it. You could do like a single switch if you wanted to for it, but you don't need it because you can run a switch back here and put one here for your navigational lights. But it's just so easy just to reach up in your gear pod and just disconnect the battery. Straight power to any device, just like my fish finder. It's more reliable, guys. I'm an electrician and I'm telling you that just from experience, that all these, I'm gonna say stupid switches that everybody likes to put on their kayaks to make it look cool, down the line just gives you issues. It will last it'll last you for quite a while, but I'm telling you right now, direct power is the way to go to keep it simple. I will say I had this kayak pretty much set up within probably the first 3 months, so having exactly the way I wanted it. And only one thing I'm going to change on this kayak in the future is the fish finder itself. I'm probably going to upgrade to a little bit of a larger screen, maybe a 10 or a 12, just so I can see easier from the seat. Even though I'm sitting back here, I can still see that 7-inch pretty okay, but I know the higher the bigger the size of the screen, the better the resolution it is. So that'll help us too with our side imaging, because that's all we like to use is side imaging and down imaging. This is more or less for water temperature and finding my structure off to the side. That's why I got the retract system, because I like my side scan, and that's how I find my fish. But when you're in cold, tidal water, you're really just fishing. It's really sight fishing for reds anyway. I do have the Boondocks crossbar. I forgot exactly what it's called, but I got that on there. And the only reason I got that on here instead of just using the track on the gear pod is because you can see I run a track pack, which I don't have those currently with me, on the side. And I also have a Yak Attack phone holder, and sometimes I use that for a net mount. I just change the top, and that's how I rest my net, and it rests right across the top of this. But I like having that bar going across here because it gives me more space to mount more gear, especially when I get a bigger fish finder. I'll be able to have a larger screen on here, still have my track pack, and still have my Yak Attack phone holder. This track is good, but it's just not as wide as this. Plus there's a little built-in measuring bar, so if you wanted to get a quick measurement, that's fine. I run my catch board on the side here with just 2 Yak Attack roto grips. I just have that up here because a lot of people like to run their catch board underneath their seat. I like keeping my deck clear, so I like having it right here on the side. And I do tether this off. I do have a video where I actually did kick this thing off and it fell off like that, and if I didn't have it tethered, I would have lost it because these things don't float. The Yak Attack ones float, but I've been not a big fan of theirs, so I do tether this. And then I have the EPS system since I'm on this side. That's the foot control steering for the motor. It's a quick connect, mounts on the track, very easy to set up. And speaking of motor, I have the Torqeedo. This is about 2 years old because I got this pretty much when I got this kayak. So even the Torqeedo has held up pretty well. I've beat the crap out of this, but you do have to have the rock guard on this because I was just on the water with this and I hit something. I was like in about 1.5 feet of water, and I was in tidal water out in salt, and I don't know what I hit. I think it was, I was by a bridge. I don't know if I hit a rock or whatever, but man, I hit that hard and I kicked that motor up because that kicks out of that thing. So I do have the foot control steering. You can run a Honda 2.3 horsepower, I think it is, gas motor on this because the transom on this is squared off, and you could just use the tiller extension handles, or you could use the electric ones. Torqeedo and both Newport have electric stern mounted motors with the tillers. That's kind of a cool thing too. It kind of gives you that real true, like, you know, being on like a skiff type of concept. But I like foot control steering because it gives you your true hands-free fishing. I can set that throttle and just steer with my foot and just run up a bank very easily, or hold my position in the water. I do have a video with the NK 180 on this kayak as well, and I got it up top speed about 5.25 miles per hour. That's pretty damn good. The little NK 180 Pro from Newport Vessel. So I was pretty impressed with that. I do run the black pack with the short stack on top. This is one thing I'm going to say: if you can get the black pack, definitely get the short stack, because this thing is basically just one big open tray. This is where I keep all my soft plastics. I keep my snacks for the day, and it's just easy to spin around on my seat, grab what I need, and it's right there. And once again, nothing is on the floor in front of me or underneath my seat. Short stack is definitely the best way to go. Inside here, I carry my drinks, my camera gear, stuff like that, and I have an Aqua 10 amp hour battery here, which does the powers the USB-C port that runs my GoPro behind me on the boomstick. And I have that mounted to a lock and load base, but the HD base, which is a little bit wider here, guys, and gives you more stability on the track, and it keeps the camera from shaking around as much. But you can see that it has a 3-point connection. So that's what I run for my boomstick. So that's the HD mount. And speaking of swinging around, I will say this is the favorite feature of the Nucanoe Unlimited is the 360 Fusion seat, because of this. I sit like this in the warmer months and dangle my feet off in the water and just enjoy myself and fish, and this thing is stable enough to do that. So that is my favorite part of the Nucanoe Unlimited, or Nucanoe brand in general, is their 360 Fusion seats. Behind my seat is where I keep my main Torqeedo battery that runs my motor, and all I got to do if I run out is just go up to shore, come up here, or do it on the boat. I can get in there and I could change my battery by just swiveling my seat around and doing the same concept. So that's where I run behind me. This keeps all my tackle as far as soft plastics. Up here, these two track pack positions, because you can stack them. This is where I run like my crankbaits or any of my hard tackle and my terminal tackle when I'm fishing for fresh or salt, and like all my crankbaits, my spinner baits go in the track packs, because I travel light. I don't take out 60 tackle boxes with me. Back here, I also have the flag, you know, the Visipol from Yak Attack. I got rid of their flag. No offense, Yak Attack, nothing like the American flag, so I got that on there. I have a video on how I took this and made this, and the reason why I had to make a mount for my anchor wizard is, you can see I have it coming straight off the kayak. Now if I mounted it just on the track, obviously it'd be sitting here in the way of the motor to be able to turn and also get hung up on it. So I took a piece of HDPE 1/2 inch, took this, cut it, got a little angle piece, cut this all with a jigsaw, sanded down the edges with a sander, made it clean, and I mounted it on the little piece of track that you have over here, which is here, to be able to straighten out my anchor wizard. I can have a grappling style or a ball kind of anchor, and it doesn't interfere with the motor. I can drop it, raise it. What I normally do, the grappling style, when I get hung up, is I just reverse my motor, get over the top of it, and releases it, and I kick it out, and I just crank it up. But you have to have a plate here if you're going to run the anchor off the back, because that's where I like to keep it, so it's out of my way. You can run the anchor wizard, and they do have actually a mount that goes in these 3 holes here where your handle is. They give you a plate up front to mount your anchor, and you can run it straight back. And that's probably the better way when you're on a river, but I'm not in a lot of rivers, and even if when I am on a river, I usually don't like to anchor just because it can get you into some dangerous situations, so I don't really anchor on a river anyway. And I just like having the anchor behind me. I could do a whole setup here and do a power pole if I wanted to and still have the motor. I like the anchor wizard because it's less expensive. It's easy to use, easy to fix if you break it, and you can change out anchors very easily with, you know, just having that clip and the carabiner in the back to do a ball or a grappling style. So I like my anchor in the back, and I have it mounted to my Boondocks landing gear here, which you can see the setup. I have a video on this too, an install video. So I have the Boondocks landing gear. It comes with a plate that grabs the bottom track and the top track here, and obviously you have the T-track position to be able to mount anything on top of it, and that's where I put my anchor wizard. But this Boondocks landing gear has been a savior for me in a lot of situations, because I also have the sand wheels for it too, to go through, like, you know, softer, mushier terrain or on the sand itself. These are the hard wheels. But I have this on here on the Boondocks landing gear, and once again, when my seat's here, I can just easily release this anchor. It goes down, and then to retract it, you just got to take that and you can lock it back in. On this side, I have the throttle, and I do tether off my paddle because I use the built-in paddle holder. I would suggest, if you run a motor, to tether your paddle, because what happens is the way this is mounted on the side. Now you could use the double header if you wanted to from Yak Attack and mount your paddle somewhere. You have to either just screw it down another piece of track or put it back there if you wanted to, and use a double header to keep it up out of the water. But what happens is, when you're catching these waves and you're not really paying attention, because you want to pay attention, they don't get hit by a boat, the waves will come on sometimes, even though that's holding pretty tight, and knock that paddle off. And it's happened to me probably about I would say maybe 8 times since I've been motorizing that's happened to me with the Unlimited. And the only reason I knew I lost my paddle is that when this is getting dragged behind the kayak, you have a different feel. You know something's going on because it's tethered off. If I didn't have it tethered off, I would have lost this paddle probably within the first month of me motorizing a kayak, because I would not realize that I knocked it off, and I would have been really far away, if not throughout the whole day, realizing, shoot, where's my paddle? Definitely tethering your paddles. I have a Yak Attack cup here that holds, I usually keep my fluorocarbon sitting in there. I got a marker and a line cutter, and I keep some tools down in there. But overall, that's the kayak setup, guys. Been this way for about 2 years. Only thing I'm going to change on this yet is the fish finder. I'm going to get a bigger screen probably sometime this year yet, when I can scrounge up some money. I love this kayak. Like I said, I have 2 of them. I leave this one set up the way you see it, and the other one I kind of leave with just the 2 seats on it, more open, with the foot control steering with a motor to be able to motorize it when I take me and my son out, which if you guys follow along, you see I've done numerous videos already with him, and there'll be a lot more coming up with me and my son going out. I don't think I would ever go to another brand kayak as of right now. Only other thing that piques my attention is any of the Bonafides probably, but I like Nucanoe because everything is on the track, easy to adjust, very stable, and nothing else really appeases me or makes me want to say, hey, I'm dumping Nucanoe and I'm going to go over to that brand. I purchased all this stuff. Nothing on this kayak was given to me, so this is a true honest review. How I have it set up is how, like I said, it's going to stay. Love this kayak. Like I said, I have numerous videos. I'll probably put 2 other videos that you see on this. Pretty much you could see that's been the same setup in almost all the videos except for my navigational lights, and I did a DIY crossbar before I got this Boondocks one. I still think this is a simple setup. Yes, it's fully rigged out for tournament fishing or being legal on the water. This is still simple compared to what other people I see carry. I see people that run these kayaks and have these things weighted down with so much gear, and they have stuff cramped all around their feet. But hey, to each their own, right? To me, this is still a simple setup. It's super stable, guys. I stand up in this thing all the time. Overall, I think it's a great kayak. I utilize it for river, small bodies of water, large bodies of water, offshore. I use it salt, I use it fresh, I use it brackish. There's nothing that I am scared to take this kayak in, and I just love this thing. I can't talk any more about this, how great I love this kayak. But people are going to say that about all their kayaks that they run too as well, because that's what they're on, that's what they're used to. There's a lot of great kayaks out there, guys, but I think this is just a general awesome kayak to be able to do anything you want to do, because nothing is set in stone because it's on a track. You can have this as fancy, as loaded as you want, or as simple and wide open as you want. Trust me, I'm not bullshitting you. This is a great kayak for that all-around multi-purpose use. Tandem, single, you can even put 3 people in this kayak with a buddy seat in the middle. I mean, just go on the internet and you'll see all the different setups you can have with this kayak. And this is under a playlist under the Nucanoe. I think I have it under Nucanoe Unlimited. I have all my Unlimited videos on there. So thanks for stopping by, guys. You can see underneath for all the abuse I've done to it. It's held up very well, and I'm not gentle with it. I want to use it, abuse it, and have fun on it. All right, guys, be safe on the water, and I'll see you guys soon.